I have mentioned it a number of times in the last 3 or 4 years. When I was first given the knowledge, it seemed to me that if I focused my attention on generators, they were the majority. They're an energy type. They can discover their strategy and authority almost immediately. That I assumed that the only way that I was going to be able to establish human design in the world was to be able to produce a couple of awake generators. And as such, I spent about 10 years on the road trying to seduce as many generators as I could. They really have pissed me off in my life, but nonetheless, I worked real hard at getting their attention and telling them this real easy thing that would transform their life. And then I realized it isn't working as fast as I thought. So maybe I should pay attention to some of the others, sort of. I'm playing with you, but nonetheless, there's real truth in that. I find projectors to be, as a manifester, both something that I am familiar with because we are non-sacral, and at the same time they seem so deeply different. And the great difference for me is that in the way in which I understand type is that I don't understand type from the body graph configuration. I understand type through aura. I mean, for me, the aura represents the holistic energy field, and it is that holistic energy field that allows you to interpret the force that you're meeting. When I meet a generator, I don't even meet the force. I can simply feel it coming around me. It's like stepping into an embrace. Whenever I meet a generator, this is the first impression that I have. And that embrace is never personal. It's the most interesting thing about the generator aura, is that it's this wonderful enveloping aura, but it's not personal. They envelop the person behind them as much as they envelop the person in front of them, which makes them, by the way, very vulnerable. But you see, when I meet a projector, I meet somebody who's got a camera on me. I'm suddenly very aware that there is another human being there. I mean, very aware. I cannot avoid it. As a matter of fact, it is almost, because it's not really, almost uncomfortable. And it's almost uncomfortable because I'm a manifester. So I've got this repelling aura and there's this thing trying to bang into me. You know, I've learned to live with the generator field because it's not personal. So I can just sort of move my way through that energy. But you see, the projector is the most personal being we have. I mean, there's nothing more personal than a projector. You see, if you're a projector and you're in a room with two people, you've already created an enemy. Think about that. Because it's the great projector truth. You're a projector, you're in a room with two people. One of them is going to be very upset. And they're going to be very upset because all you can ever do is put your energy into one person at a time. It's all you're capable of. As a matter of fact, while you're pointing all your energy at that one person, the other person is thinking, what a miserable person that is. They totally ignored me. See, because when a generator is in a room with 78,000 people, it's all okay. Everybody's happy with them, you know? They're part of the crowd. But a projector? No. One at a time. And of course, this is their power, and at the same time, this is what's so disturbing about them. Because you see, most of the world is not projector. 80%. A little over 5 billion people on the planet who are not projectors, you know? And the vast majority of those 5 billion are energy types. And the projector seems to be some kind of bizarre, singularly focused parasite. I mean, I know all of us who don't have a sacral, we're all parasites. You know, I understand that. I mean, we live off the generator life. You know, this is us. But you see, with the projector, it's so one at a time. See, the projector aura, it literally burrows in. And where it goes is that it's aimed right at your G center. You know? I mean, it's not like it's holding the gun in the air. You know? It's pointing it right at you. And it's not like it's ever going to take it away unless you leave that aura. You can't. The only people who really, truly love projectors, and I mean this, are people with undefined throats. See, people with undefined throats as not self, all they ever want is to attract attention. All they need is a projector. And they feel absolutely fantastic. This person is only thinking about me. They're only focused on me. There's 8 million people in this room and they don't even see them. They're only here for me. People with undefined throats are suckers for projectors. I mean, they'll give you anything, eh? Literally, for the attention. I mean, the not-self is a rather sick thing, after all. But you see, it is this power. And then there's the dilemma. It is always a dilemma. There's no energy. I mean, there's no energy. They're a non-energy type. Projectors are a non-energy type. See, this week I'm talking about signatures. Signature is the kind of holy grail of type. You know? You get out of the, the garbage can of not self-theme. You know, the deep, deep bitterness of the projector. You know, I'm bitter that the sun's not shining, the bitterness that's there. And at the other end of that holy grail is success. Success? See, a generator can go from frustration to satisfaction at the speed of light. Like that. No projector gets success like that. They're non-energy type. It's not like they have the capacity inherent in themselves. They don't. They don't. See, the thing I like about projectors is that they are as ignorant of themselves as manifestors like me. See, we don't care about ourselves. We don't. The last thing that a manifestor wants to know is how they work. You know? It's not interesting. They want to know if they have impact on someone. See, I've been watching projectors for years. And I look at them and I think, well, what are they about? What are they here for? I mean, what use do they have? Do they have any? I look at it and I think, generators are slaves and they work and they build all this stuff. And manifestors pretend they used to run it, And they're all busy in their energy. I mean, what is the projector here for? To whine? Is this their movie? Oh, it could have been so much better, Next life. I mean, what for? And when I was given the knowledge, they said, manifestors are out and projectors are... And I thought, are you crazy? I mean, how do you change the hierarchy that way? How do you put these people who don't know what they're doing, who have no power, and they're supposed to be at the top of the hierarchy, and us wonderful manifestors, they put us out to pasture. I'm pissed. I don't get it. See, the world that we live in is a world for generators and projectors. I mean, this is the most important relationship that exists on the planet. And it's a very odd one. It is. See, projectors are so different. You really are. I mean, this is the thing to understand about type. Type is deeper than race. Type is deeper than any kind of cultural difference. I mean, for me, anything that's not a manifester is alien. It's alien. It's another thing. You know, it's a thing, whatever that is. It's a construct that I may understand theoretically, that I may have experience with physically, but I have no idea what it's like to be a generator or a projector or, God forbid, a reflector. I have no idea. You know? I got enough trouble just living in the old manifester game. You know? And I look at projectors and I think, wow, are they different? Because they got another time frame entirely. We don't work on the same time frame. We actually don't even live in the same Maya. It's different. See, everything for me, everything for the generator is fast. We are the fastest things you can imagine. We're fast at fucking up. We're fast at doing it right. We're fast. We are the energy beings. You know, driving the machine. You know, the one with the mouse going around and around and around and around and around and around. That's us. And there's projectors. Looking for that 1G center, like the man with the plug in his hand, looking for the socket. Where is it? You know, where can I plug in? And everybody's running around busy, and the projector says, where can I plug in? And they were always at the bottom of the heap. They were always at the bottom of the heap because the one thing that really didn't matter was intelligence. See, I'm sorry to say that when manifestors ruled the world, most people were dumb. You know, it was pretty easy to drive the wheel. We have a very different age. It changed in 1781. We have a very, very different age. This cellular cycle that everybody learns about when they enter into design, this 7-year theme of the transformation of your vehicle cellularly, that you get rid of the old information, that you integrate the new information. When you're looking at the life of a projector, 7-year cycles are some of the deepest, deepest, deepest markers you can look at. I mean, Jovian offers a discount to projectors for a reason. Because you see, everything about that ability of the projector to focus its aura on the other is that there is no other human being that truly can grasp who the other is. This is the gift of projector. See, the manifestor doesn't want to know about itself, but wants to know about its impact. The projector doesn't want to know about itself, not interested. It's interested in how everybody else functions. It's interested in being able to recognize what it needs to recognize in the other. It's its gift. But you see, to master anything, to master any system, it takes 7 years. You go to South India and you want to study the veena, beautiful instrument. And you sit down with the master and you say to the master, how long? And the master will say, 7 years to learn. It's 7 years to master anything. If you look at the traditional university systems and the way in which they're structured, the way education is structured, this 7 years is imprinted into us. It may mean something to all of us at the cellular level that we go through these cycles. But for the projector, this is the only path to success. See, success is something that is earned over time. There is no such thing as overnight success, not for a projector. It is not possible. It will take any projector, when they enter into a path of correctness, it will take them at least 7 years to master the other. Because that's what they're here for. See, in the end, when the hierarchy changed, what is so important about the nature of the potential of the projector is that in its perfection, it is able to recognize the potential of the other. That's the gift. To recognize the potential of the other and to be able to provide the other with guidance. With guidance. In Jovian Business Consulting, it is taught clearly that the most important leader of any group, theoretically and ideally, should be a projector. It is what they are about. And you see, projectors are not here to lead, which means that this is an entirely new role. Manifestors lead. Projectors cannot lead. They do not have the power to lead. They're a non-energy type. They cannot lead. They can only guide. And they can only guide when they're invited. You know, there are conditions, but they cannot lead. And the dilemma that exists for the projector is that the projector child, who is deeply disadvantaged as a child, who comes into the world with parents that want them to be manifestors, that comes into a world that overloads them, that turns them into hyperactive beings for the rest of their lives, that drives them constantly to be something that's not, that rewires their metabolism. I mean, projectors go through hell as children because they're not recognized. And you see, people have an odd idea about them. They are very, very, very complex. In the booklet you've been given, if you look at page 10, 11, 12, 13, those 4 pages, there are different illustrations of different kinds of projectors. I mean, in my own calculation, there's probably 7 distinct kinds of projectors. There's many different variations. They're more complex than any other type. You can have a projector that only has 2 centers defined. You can have a projector that has 8 centers defined. You can't just look at a chart and see automatically sometimes that it's a projector. It can be quite something. They're very, very complex beings. Very complex. But it all comes back to the same thing, and it comes back to one thing and one thing only. If you cannot master your world, if you cannot master your ability to grasp and understand and recognize the other, then there's something essential that's always going to be missing in your life that is going to destroy your life, is that you do not have the discernment to be able to recognize who belongs in your life. Who belongs in your life. When you're walking around as a not-self projector with your plug in your hand, you plug into anything. Anything. And your not-self mind will rationalize for you that this is good and this is okay and it's all right, and just because it's lousy, you'll get out of it, and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And it is this mindless plugging into the other that is so destructive to the projector, because you have to live off their frequency. See, when I see the not-self human being walking around, I don't look for features. I don't look for the expression on their face. I don't need to. I just feel the aura brush by. And you can feel the dysfunction in the aura. Projectors, for me, so obviously have dysfunction in their aura. The frequency's wrong. And you see, they have no way of stabilizing their own frequency because the frequency is established through their meeting with the other. You see, projectors and reflectors are very, very different in the way in which they deal with the concept of conditioning. They're different. You see, the projector, because it has a focused aura, is designed to be conditioned. It's designed to be conditioned, to get the energy. It doesn't mean it's designed to give up its authority, but it's designed to take in the conditioning. You need it. And so while you're focused on the other, you're taking in this deep conditioning. If the other is not correct, think about your car. And you got a nice brand new gasoline car. You go into the gas station and fill it up with diesel. Nice car. You can put it in your living room and allow people to look at it through the window, because it's not going to drive anymore. This is projectors. See, one of my favorite things to say to projectors is that when somebody walks into your life, imagine you'd have to eat them. No, I mean it, really. You'd have to eat them. There's sort of some people that you look at and you think, wow, they're delicious. I could eat that, And there's some people that you would never put on a fork. Eh? I mean, never, ever, ever put on a fork. I mean, just the idea of it is so repellent, it's unbelievable. But you see, as a projector, you take everybody in a way that is so deep, that is so profound. You are literally being invaded, against your will, in that sense, quote unquote. You're taking them in deeply, deeply than you take in a lover, deeply than, this is the projector in the supermarket standing in line. It's like you're in a gangbang movie. No joke, eh? There's 8,000 people pumping you full of stuff. See, they recognize you. They do. Everybody recognizes projectors, which isn't necessarily a good thing, by the way, for projectors. You can get noticed at the wrong time. Not necessarily a good thing. But you see, my whole concern about the nature of the projector is that because the strategy is so difficult, it is, because it's a time strategy. Invitations? You can really wait for invitations, eh? I mean, this is not responding. This is not bang, 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 moment by moment by moment. And you see, for the projector, the dilemma is that it's not how many people are in your life. It is the value of each being in your life. This is the whole thing for projectors to grasp. It's all about that ability to be able to recognize the other. It's why when when I look at my last 20 years as a teacher of human design, projectors have an enormous capacity to take in information. It's an enormous capacity. It's built into them. This systems analysis program. And when I meet projectors, they've either been, psychologists or astrologers or this and that. They're always trying to find that system where they can peer inside and figure out what the other is all about. And there has never been in the history of humankind a tool like human design for being able to know somebody inside out and down to their toes. But you cannot just master it in a moment. Because despite the fact that you don't care about yourself, the fact that you're only focused on the outside doesn't mean that you can avoid being correct. You can't. And that you have an authority, and it is there for you to guide you. But the key is that you need tools. See, this theme of success, what does it really mean? You see, it's about being able to get to a place as a projector that it is no longer an issue that you are a non-energy type. It's just no longer an issue. And now, at the beginning of this process of projectors literally awakening to what is their role, it's a big issue. And because it's this big issue, you have this blind plugging in, and it is devastating for the projector. And bitterness, bitterness is something that is cruel. And it's cruel. It changes the way everything feels. And you see, the joke for me has always been this relationship between the generator and the projector. Because you see, the generator is the great worker. I mean, they have to work. Eh? They have to work in the sense that if they don't physically use their energy, they're not going to be healthy. So it's very important for them that they work. But often because they are so, I'm speaking of the not-self generator, because they're so enslaved into that process that they really don't know how to live. Projectors are born with, I don't want to work ever. You know, you're a projector baby, you come out of the womb, you look at your mother and say, I am never going to work. Don't ask me. Don't tell me. I don't want to work. Okay? I just want to learn. You know, I'll grow up watching. You know, but don't make me work. You know, and of course they have to work because their parents want them to be manifestors. And they hate it. There isn't a projector alive, not self-projector, that likes what they do. Oh, I have to work. Oh, shit. I have to work. There must be a way around this. Where can I plug in? You know? How can I get away from this? I don't want to work. I want to plug into somebody who will work for me. Okay? Let me plug in. What a sad life that can be. Because it leads to dependency. It leads to abuse. It leads to blackmail. It leads to all kinds of pain. It's not the point. See, the more the potential in any human being, the more difficult the journey. I mean, projectors aren't given a hierarchical position. It's a possibility. It's a potential, like anything else. And it has to be earned in a different way. It has to be earned through the mastery of their world. That's what you're here for. That if you don't master it, if you don't understand how human beings work, if you don't understand how to operate correctly, you don't get any of that, and you certainly don't get the success that you're here to have. Where that energy business is not the issue. Where you are not wandering around with a plug, but people with sockets are coming to you. Here, plug in here, please. Well, I don't know. Maybe. See, projectors have an enormous sense of lack of self-worth. Everybody's juicy and running around. It doesn't matter whether they're aware of it or not. They're always trying to tap into it. They never feel like they have what they need. They don't. It's very easy to see that the world is against you. It is so easy when you wander in life looking to plug in how many enemies you collect. How many people you don't like and you resent. Because you never knew who the right people were in the first place. In the first place, because you didn't know how to see them. You didn't know how to recognize who is correct for you and who is not correct for you. And if you want to see a type that is mind-fucked, and I mean mind-fucked at a level that goes so high we don't even want to talk about it, it's projectors. Mind, 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 mind. See, because it's the curse of being a projector. You're given this kind of mind so that you can really probe things and recognize them, but as not self, that mind becomes an absolute horror trip. And then you go to all those places of openness. You know, where the conditioning comes in and the mind jumps on it. And you have these complex projector minds who twist and turn the conditioning, start making the most insane decisions. I mean, really insane decisions. You know, nothing nutsier than a projector on a mental decision-making trip. Because nothing in life works without energy. Doesn't. And projectors of all types, they are not here to be alone. I mean, they're here to guide others. They're here to be able to interact with them, be recognized, recognize what they need. And you can see the mess the planet's in. It's not like they're doing their job, because they're lost in the other. I mean, they're lost in the other. It is the irony of being a projector. You can only focus on the other, and the danger is getting lost in the other. And the answer is that the other has to be correct. I mean, correct to a point that nobody needs to be more rigid about who they bring into their life than a projector. Generators in their enveloping aura, it's not personal. They can handle it. Manifestors will blow it off. Reflectors got a Teflon aura, doesn't touch them. You know, projectors pay a deep, deep price for not being aware. See, generators are designed to surrender. And projectors must accept until they know. You know? Until they know. See, every time a projector looks at somebody else, they see an aspect of their own nature. It's always like that. The more beings you look at as a projector, the more often you get to see who you are, how you work. But in the end, it comes down to a very simple thing, as all things do in this knowledge. It comes to your authority. It really does. See, strategy for a projector is like entering into a career. You know? You've got to commit 7 years to being able to develop the skills that you need. And of course, the dilemma for a projector, because the projector is tied to the 7-year cycle, is that you end up with the wrong lovers for 7 years. You end up with the wrong jobs for 7 years. You know, because once you're in, you get into the lock. You know, and you figure, we'll work it out, because after all, the projector's trajectory is that they master something over that 7-year cycle. What they end up mastering is an understanding that they were with the wrong person, and they leave them at the end of the 7 years. What to do, you know? See, we don't know, because we were never taught the rules of interaction, how to meet the other, and how to know which other is correct for us. It's true for all of us. Discernment is one of my favorite words, because it is a key in this life. And if you are somebody who is a projector, who is so open to that focus on one being, that you're going to be so dependent on what that one being provides you, you better be so damn sure that's the right being. And it means that you can never go get them, that you're not here to find them. You're here to recognize them when they show up. I mean, for a projector, for their lives, all relationships must begin with invitation, or those relationships will never be of value. Never. Never. Because the most important thing in a projector's life is their relationships. Not their group relationships, their one-on-one relationships. You know, you may have 10 of those one-on-ones or 4 of those one-on-ones. It doesn't matter what the numbers are. It is about the correctness of that. You cannot afford to be with the wrong people. You can't. You have no way of protecting yourself. None whatsoever. None. It is so easy as a projector to be manipulated by your environment. Easy. See, it takes time. The most beautiful thing about the relationship of the knowledge to projectors is that this knowledge is inherently logical. It goes in very, very deep. Everything about human design is that it is practical. And everything about the process for the projector is to be able to have practical tools to be able to survive in this world of energy types. There's, if you go to the very, very inside cover, front page inside cover, this is a graphing of color. And this graphing of color, that is, there is beneath each line 6 colors. And what color represents is that color represents on the personality side your underlying motivation. Every human being has an underlying motivation. We have a thematic motivation that we find underneath our personality, sun and earth. And when you are not operating correctly, you do not operate according to the motivation that is correct for you. And if your motivation is not correct, then you do not have cognition, which means you do not have the intelligence potential to be able to discern the way in which you have, at least you were designed to have, true potential to discern. For projectors, personality color is something that is enormously important. It has the same value for a projector that responding has for a generator, and that's quite something to say. In other words, it is an essential tool for projectors. In the work that we do in the IHDS, that is Rave Psychology, that the basis of Rave Psychology is to begin to understand the nature of personality transference. And personality transference is the way in which other people take you away from your true motivation. Now, by the way that works is harmonic. So if your personality color is a 1 and you're not operating correctly, it will function as a 4. If it's a 2, it'll work as a 5. It's a 3, it'll work as a 6, and so forth. And the reason that I mention this is that it is so important for projectors to grasp. Think about the situation. Here you are, a projector. Somebody comes up to you. You're not emotional. You're just an unemotional projector. Somebody comes up to you. They say to you, you know, that they would really like to take you out to lunch. And in that moment, you have this invitation from them. And in that moment, your authority, let's say you're splenic, you get this intuition, okay, you go for it. And you say yes. Okay, so you go to lunch. And over lunch, things begin to heat up, you know? I mean, it's getting exciting. It looks like this could be an interesting relationship. You're plugged into this person. You entered into it correctly. Everything seems to be okay. And it may be okay. It may be okay for a week. It may be okay for a month. But you have to remember that that other person is not self. I mean, they're not real. Their relationship to you is not real. They don't love themselves. They can't imagine how it would be to love anybody else. They're just hoping you might love them. You know, I mean, it's not like you're dealing with Buddha, you know? It's just another Joe or Jane who doesn't know what's going on. You know, and there you are with, I said okay. You know, I accepted this invitation. Right? Okay. Now think about the dilemma for the projector. You can't keep on expecting the invitation from these people every day. On and on and on and on and on, you know. Would you like to have a conversation now? And it goes on and on and on. All these endless invitations. They're not generators. This is a very different being. You see, for the projector, That strategy of invitation is not about anything banal or mundane. The glory of the generator is that they have mundane truth. In other words, every single aspect of life can be dealt with honestly, with a yes and no in their response. But if you're a projector, you're only limited to large themes. Which friend? Which lover? Which job? Big things, you know? Where to be, you know? These kinds of things that are major issues in the life. This is what the invitation is all about. Because you see, all the little stuff, that comes from the conditioning of others that you plug into. When you plug into the life force. But there's nothing to say that that person that you agreed in a correct invitation to enter into that life with them isn't to say that 2 weeks later that it isn't possible for you to find out and notice there's something wrong. Because things change. And because projectors are hooked on that plugging in, if they don't have a tool for recognizing when things are wrong, they stayed plugged in until the whole thing becomes a problem, and hopefully for them, eventually there's a way to get out. In rave psychology, I train people to do what's called color transfer analysis. And basically what this is a tool for projectors to understand your motivation, the way in which you are here to be driven, and to understand that well enough so that with your mind, because there's no better mind for analysis than projectors, that you can recognize the moment that anyone is pulling you away from your motivation. And the moment they're pulling you away, you know that whether the invitation was okay 2 weeks ago, it ain't okay anymore. Because projectors need to have their door. They have a right to a door. They have a right to be able to unplug. They have a right to get out. You know, this is one of the dilemmas of bitterness. The bitterness doesn't come from the beginning. The bitterness comes from the middle. You know, the middle of the process where it sets in that it wasn't right. And traditionally, the not-self projector only finds out that the decision was wrong when it goes bad, you know? When it's all too late, when they've already suffered, when they've gone through years of trying to make it better and figure out how to make it work and all that stuff that they go through. And you see, I would never introduce this level of the knowledge, because it's quite something to understand this level of the knowledge, to anybody else but projectors in that sense, because they have to have it. And it is an indication of what their trajectory is in the process. That is to master, that in order for them to function correctly, they have to master at a deeper level than anyone else. It's not enough for a projector to understand the surface of human design. It isn't. It never will be. I mean, you can give a manifester and a generator a 2-sentence reading and send them on their way. And everything's okay. You know, in a projector, it takes 7 years. 7 years. You have to be there. You have to truly understand how it works. And you see, it's at that point that you can see the power. Because as I said, I don't want to just sit on the negatives this week. I mean, you know, there's something very, very beautiful about this capacity to master and focus. Human beings are blind. The vast majority of this planet are sheep. They don't know where to go, what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it. They don't know any of these things. They are lost in the Maya. And yet it is the magic of any projector that is correct to be able to attract to them. Attract, remember, the word is attract. To attract to them those that will recognize they are a force that can change their lives. And they can. How beautiful it is to have those beings here on this plane that can tell you which way to go. You know? There are so many lost souls out here. And you see, this is the special relationship that exists between the projector and the generator as an ideal. See, the generator, with all its incredible power, it needs to respond. It is only going to live out the beauty of its power if it has something correct to respond to. As a manifester, I find it very difficult to ask generators or anybody else anything. It's not really my trip. You know, manifestors are not that kind. You know, we're not very good at that. At least we can inform once in a while, you know. But I mean, projectors are designed to see the need and potential of every generator. They're here to be of service to the generator. I mean, that's what they're here for. They're the ones that are here to ask the question. They're the ones that are here to make the invitation. You know, they're the ones who get the generator to respond. And of course, they want something in return. Quid pro quo. It's the way it goes. You know, this is the potential honesty. Because, of course, after all, that relationship is a relationship that can only operate through respect. It's one of the things that I've tried to teach projectors. Learn to ask questions. It's Socratic, you know? It's so beautiful intellectually if you grasp it. There is nothing more profound than a good question. I mean, I love good questions. When you think about the generator session, you know, generators asking each other questions, how profound that is, how powerful that is, how amazing that is. And yet most generators are very insecure about what questions to ask somebody. You know? It's like it's not... I remember, Marianne, you made this list of all, you know, examples of the kinds of questions you can ask. But you see, projectors are natural because they're actually designed not to ask you questions that don't matter. They're here to recognize you. And they recognize you in a way that nobody else can. It's why we are so uncomfortable with the not-self projector. Because that not-self projector, we lost the light, okay? The not-self projector, you know, it just goes right in there, burrows in. It can be so uncomfortable. And when they're not correct, it's very uncomfortable. But when they are, when you need them, they're the ones that go inside you. They're the ones that go right to your identity. You know, they put their little auric fist right around your monopole, you know? And they just hold on like this and they say, I gotcha, I gotcha, I gotcha, and I know who you are, you know? And they go through this process where in that whole auric movement are all these little investigative things going on. They're sucking up all the data. They're taking it all in. And you see if they're right, if they're correct. The question that they can then ask is a question that's worthy for the generator to respond to one way or another. It's not about, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. It is, you know, it's not that the projector will always ask the right question in terms of the answer's always yes. Sometimes the right question brings no, so it should, you know. It is simply about knowing what question to ask. See, if you're a projector and you want to have a great experiment with people and really have a trip with them, whenever they talk to you, only ask them a question in return. No, it's quite an experiment, eh? It takes incredible discipline. And you really have to be sharp. But it's wonderful. And you'll notice right away which people are annoyed. And the ones that are annoyed, you scratch them out of your little book. Okay? You know? Because they don't want you to be a projector. They just want your attention. Nothing else. See, projectors are humanity's teddy bears. Not Randy. They are. You know, it's I have somebody who pays attention to me. You know? I mean, if you're bored or lonely, invite a projector to lunch. You'll feel like a king or queen for the day. They're going to give you all that attention. They're going to focus on you. It's going to feel terrific. You're going to feel wonderful. It's why projectors are used and abused. If you're a projector and you try to get a divorce, good luck. Eh? What a battle that's going to be. You see, even if your partner hates your guts, I mean, even if they despise the very ground you walk on, the hardest thing in the world for them to do is give up that attention. It's hard to do. You see, we have mutual addictions in the not-self. You know, the projector that is addicted to plugging in with the person who's addicted to having the attention. And the one who's addicted to having the attention wants the attention because it makes them feel like somebody likes them, loves them, thinks they're worthy, thinks they're important. Even if it's not true, they hold on to it. So projectors get lost in that whole movie. They lose both ways. It's a lose-lose situation for them. It's all about the knowledge. It's very, very detailed. You know, a projector has to go very deep. They have to go deeper than anybody else. They have to learn things that really don't even matter to other people. They need to understand it all. It's what gives them their power. You see, they get their energy from knowledge. You know? It's different. You know? They don't thrive on the natural source of energy. It's their knowledge that gives them access to the right energy, or not, or not. And so when you enter into the projector process, you enter into a real journey. I say over and over again, my dilemma with having to introduce this knowledge to adults. Because I empathize deeply with projectors. I do. You know, it's not the instant gratification of a generator. It isn't. It's different. You know, it takes a different approach, a long-term approach, a different view. But it takes a real dedication to the knowledge. It's not so easy in that sense for projectors to have the moment-by-moment gratification. And success for them is as they gain awareness, concept by concept by concept. It's this grasping of how things work that give the projector its power. And each time they grasp how something works, it gets integrated deeper and deeper into this very, very analytical system. They're masters of looking at the world. And they're all wearing these masks so they cannot see. And it comes back, as always, to understanding something. Strategy is a secondary thing for the projector, but authority is always there for them. And to learn to trust that authority. Because in the beginning, it's the only thing that protects them from the wrong other. You know, when you begin your process in human design as a projector, you have people in your life. You know, it's normal. And of course, those people in your life, they're a problem for you. They are. They hold you to all that conditioning. They expect you to be the way they expect you to be, the way you have been. They don't want you probing them. They just want your attention and nothing else, and they normally want your attention on their terms, and if you don't give it to them, they take their energy away. And they say, the hell with you. So you become enslaved to them and bitter about it on top of it. It can be so sad, that kind of life. You know, so it takes a very, very deep commitment. You bury yourself in the knowledge. You know, these are the only students of mine that are allowed to get so absorbed in the knowledge that they don't live the truth. Because that'll come. It'll come. But I have to get very, very, very absorbed in the knowledge, because that logical truth settles in layer by layer by layer by layer until it's time. It emerges. It does. But it's the mastery that matters. And the questions. And the questions. To know how to ask a question, this is the great goal of a projector. Here is where their real power is. There are two areas of the projector that I really want to talk about. And both of them represent deep dilemmas for the projector. And the first is to talk about the projector that is a split definition. The moment that we have a split definition, about 45% of humanity have split definitions. And I'm not talking about triple splits or quadruple splits. I'm just talking about two areas of definition separated from each other. A basic split definition. About 45% of humanity have this. And of course, what that means is that you have a fundamental openness in you that is always looking for a bridge. Always. Always looking for a bridge. When we talk about in analytical training about understanding the hierarchy of conditioning, that though we look at conditioning generally through open centers and the strategies, the not-self strategies of open centers, that when you're dealing with a split definition, that the deepest conditioning is in the bridges itself. In other words, one is always looking for that way to be whole. Remember the genetic imperative that we have. That is, the way in which we are designed genetically is that we are designed to be attracted to something that is different. It is what keeps the gene pool viable. And because we are fundamentally attracted to what is different, it means that we are always attracted to what is not us in that sense. And that if you're a split definition, that very openness, waiting for that bridge, means that you're deeply, deeply, deeply longing for that completion. We already know the dilemma of the projector in the sense that they are wandering around trying to find the right sources to align to. But when you're dealing with a projector that is a split definition on top of it, it can become both obsessive and dangerous for them. And it leads to something that anyone with a split definition really begins to express, and that is blame. Blame. And one of the great, great places for the expression of projector bitterness is through blame. Let's say that you're a projector and all it takes to bring your split together is one single activation. Just a gate. That's you blaming yourself. That thing that you don't have, you blame yourself that you don't have it. And you spend your whole life looking for it. And you will plug into anyone who has it in the hope that it'll sort of rub off on you. And of course it does not. And so you blame yourself. I don't have that thing, therefore I am not worthy. I am not good. And if I had that thing, everything would be terrific. So these beings have a split definition that are projectors, and they only have one gate necessary to bring the bridge together. they are always bitter about themselves. They're not bitter about the world. They're bitter about themselves. They're bitter about how they look and the way they are. And it goes on and on and on and on and on because they're constantly blaming themselves for lacking this wholeness. And then you have the other side of the coin. You have the projectors who are a split definition, and it takes more than a channel to bring it together. And there are a lot of these projectors. And they blame everybody. They don't blame themselves. They don't know how to blame themselves. They blame everybody for everything that doesn't work. And one of the ways in which this bitterness gets so deep in the projector process is that the longer they indulge in blame, the richer the bitterness is. And you see, because projectors have this gift for recognizing, their not-self projector is very good at recognizing not-self things to blame. I mean, it's great at being able to blame. Wonderful. Blame, shame. Quite a thing. All of it goes back to the same dilemma. See, if you're a generator and you're a split definition, you have your moment-by-moment authority to guide you. You don't end up in the same trip, though the conditioning is there. But if you're a projector, you're so dependent on the energy resource. And then on top of that, there is this sense of lack of completion within yourself that you end up plugging into the wrong thing, and it becomes a horrendous trap for you psychologically as well as physically. And you never get to face the truth. You never get to see things the way they could be seen. Oh, blame is a horrendous thing. Eh? I mean, I know there's no choice. No blame, no fault. And to indulge in such things, it's like me being a freak, you know. I'm pure individual. I wake up in the morning and I'm melancholic. Now, when I wake up in the morning and I'm melancholic, I don't say to myself, what's wrong? You know? There is nothing wrong. I just happen to be displaying my basic chemistry. It's what it's about. See, for a projector to really be able to live in peace, they have to be able to move away from that bitterness. And for the split projector, how difficult it can be to get out of the bitterness. Because the other is so important, and it's always the wrong other. I mean, I have known so many projectors. Boy, did they do a lousy job on picking partners. No, really, you know? They do a lousy job. They're just not good at it. Because it's not what they're about. They're not here to find a partner. They're here to be found, you know. They're here to be invited. They're here to be recognized. They're here to be respected. And the projectors that I have known, you know, they're plugged in, you know. I mean, that's it. In the end, that's all they'll really can say about that relationship. You know? Well, I was plugged in. You know, I had dinner, lunch, breakfast. You know, I was plugged in. You know, I got to buy new clothes each year. And I was plugged in. Yeah, that was it. Nothing else. See, we're so stupid about people, aren't we? It's so easy to be fooled by people, isn't it? It just is. I mean, I know. I've watched my own movie. You know, I think somebody's going to be this and they turn out to be that. What the hell to do? You know, you can't trust the not self. to do right. You can't. You can only hope. Only. Chances are they're going to mess it up anyway. But it's this blame. It's a disease. These are the people that, blame the world, blame God, blame the government, blame the schools, blame the parents, blame the children, blame the dog. Endless, endless, endless blame. And all as a way to try to answer their own bitterness. I'm bitterness because you fucked me up. That's why I'm bitter. You're to blame for messing up my life. You're to blame for this. You're to blame for that. It's the disease of splits. It's the curse of projectors to be a split and have that open and be unaware. The first thing is that you never get to see what the other can be. Experience teaches you that the other is only going to bring you bitterness. That's what happens. These endless not-self rounds of relationships that all leave a bad taste in your mouth until you can't imagine that taste disappearing. You can't. And so the cynicism begins. See, projectors can be very, very wise beings. They know a lot of stuff, and when all of that is twisted, their minds can get so ugly about the way in which they look at the world and beings in it. They stop having respect for other people. They stop seeing. The plug becomes everything. And it all becomes, well, maybe the next one. Maybe. See, everything in their life is about people. These very special relationships, and if you are a split definition projector, you have to be Solomon in your discernment. You have to be so wise in who you allow near you. And you see, the great fear of the projector is, if I reject, I have no juice. But then you don't understand how powerful you are as a force of attraction. Projectors are deeply, deeply attractive beings. They get attention, whether they want it or not. They will always get attention. It may not be the kind of attention they like, because after all, they're not self. So they're going to get odd kinds of attention. It's not like if they reject somebody that there won't be a replacement. There will. See, we don't know how to be honest with each other. We don't. And projectors are relationship liars. They just are. They can't afford to be honest. They can't. There's too great a risk. Not honest in their relationships. And you see, what kind of a relationship can you possibly have if you're not going to be honest? I mean, you can't. There's no value to it. There's none. None. And you see, nobody gains from that. I mean, we need the resource of projectors on this plane that are awake, that are aware. It's absolutely essential. This is what our future demands. But it begins not with the fact that there may be that potential for projectors. It begins with the dilemma that projectors are so conditioned that as a group that they are so deeply, deeply lost in the Maya. No fault of theirs, No blame in that. One of the things to understand about this knowledge is that it's hierarchical. It's elitist. There's only certain people that ever get direct access to this knowledge. There's not that many projectors in the world that have any inkling of an idea of what it is to be a projector. It's the beginning of a process. It's the beginning of an educational process. I have some projectors in my life who have already gone through a 7-year cycle. You can see the difference. It takes time. It will take generations of work to begin to have, a projector milieu that is really displaying what is that potential. It's work. And it goes back to the very basis of this knowledge that says everything in this life is accomplished by you. And you alone. And nobody else. It's you. If it doesn't happen in you, if it doesn't work in you, it's you. Nobody can make it happen for you. Nobody can take you there. You see, a projector has to find within themselves that deep, deep lust for the truth. Nobody is more interested in the truth than projectors. No one. No one. This is their business. And when you think about the dilemma that they are incredible liars, you begin to wonder about the discovery of truth. And who's going to guide others to that truth? How many projectors guide people to lies? A lot. I mean, lies are much more successful than the truth in this world. We know that. Somebody doing an angel wing convention will get a lot more people than me. It's the way this stuff works. See, my concern is that for the projector, everything comes back to the very, very basic of the interaction. See, to look at the projector and to look at it within the context of the split definition and to understand all the pressure that is there is, again, to get back to the basic issue. The basic issue is, if you don't bring the right people into your life, everything goes wrong. Everything. No exceptions. No exception. Well, I've known this person a long time and blah, 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 and I can't really be, this, and I can't reject them, and give me a break. It's not about them. It's about you. This is the most selfish knowledge that exists. This is about you, not anybody else. When somebody is there and they need to be rejected, you reject them. This is about you, not about them. Doesn't matter if they don't like it, or if it hurts their feelings, or this or that. Big deal. It's about you. If you do not protect yourself, no one will. There's nobody here to look after you. This is the myth. We are only here to look after ourselves, otherwise you're lost in the circus. And you see, for a projector, this is something holy, to stand in their own authority and to be able to say, no, no. Such a great word, eh? I mean, I love no. No is really cool. Yes, it's kind of, I'm an ego person. When I say yes, it just means work. It's immediate translation. Yes, work. Yes, work. No is like no work. I love to say no. You want to do this? No. Terrific. And they leave me alone, which is really nice, right? No. And you think, if you tell them no long enough, they won't ask you anymore. It's not true. They keep coming back for more. They keep trying. Can I? No. It becomes a disease. I want that. No. That's the power of seduction. You'll see what a projector doesn't understand is that they are a quantity that the other wants. Literally. You know, like an item on the shelf in the supermarket. Oh, I like that. I want some of that. And then they come to you and you go, no. And all your life you've been saying yes, right? So you end up being that commodity. I mean, they treat you exactly the way they found you. But the moment you say no, they're immediately confused. You know, they got a problem then. This wasn't supposed to work this way. You were supposed to just plug in and everything was going to be cool, right? And why aren't you doing that? You know, they get really upset. They've got a problem. They can't use you. They want your attention. Until the projector understands that this is your greatest asset. This is the thing that allows other people to put up with you. Because they love attention. Oh, human beings love attention. Don't we? We all do. And you see, you don't get attention from generators. You don't, because it's never personal. It's just this nice enveloping aura, you know? I mean, you can be there and never talk to them, and they're happy you're there, and you're happy they're there, and you don't have anything to do with each other, and you're just in this aura, and it's all okay. Not projectors. See, there is human beings have such a bad sense of themselves that they're afraid. They're afraid to say no. They're afraid because they don't think that what's right for them will ever come. So they'll take second best, third best, fourth best, fifth best. Because they're afraid that there won't be that thing that they can plug into. And all they have to understand is that the other wants them, wants their attention, loves their attention, needs their attention. It's not like, you know, what you have now with the not-self projector is the myth that the projector sucks energy from others. You know, the leech projector. You know, that illusion. But the fact of the matter is that the way it actually operates in the not-self is that the other wants that attention and puts up with the leeching because they want the attention. The attention is more valuable to them than the annoyance of whatever they think they're losing in the interaction. They want the attention because they don't feel worthy. They don't feel that anybody loves them. How nice. Oh, he paid attention to me. Oh, do I feel good? Yeah. But it sells. You know, so projectors get used so easily. They get hooked. And the thing that stands between them and wholeness is the ability to put up their hand and say, no. No. I'm only going to plug in where I want to plug in. You know? I'm not going to miss anything. And you see, when you do that, you learn something wonderful. You begin to see your power. Because you see, they're not going to go away. Once you do that to them, they will never go away. Never. I mean, even if they're thousands of miles physically away, they've never gone away. They will go to sleep at night thinking, maybe this time I can get their attention, you know? You see, when you send them away, you begin to recognize who you are, you know, that you are valuable, and that you have to be treated according to your worth. And you'll see, they'll come back. And it's fun, by the way. You can begin to enjoy saying, no, not today. You know, no. I don't use that kind of diesel. You know? Don't need that today. It's so easy. But it comes from inner courage that you can be all right within yourself. Human design is learning to love yourself because you run your life. Nobody else. Not the genetic imperative, not people's trips, not the not self, not the lack of awareness. You run your life from your authority. And it's only from that place that you can put your hand up and say, no. And it's a holy thing to say. Make them all wait. Send them away. Until they recognize you and respect you. And if they don't, keep on saying no. Torment them. Drive them crazy. They deserve it. Let them go to sleep with it in their heads. It's their problem, not yours. It's the same thing when you come to the emotions. You know, if you want to, I create a chart of the most fucked up people, you know? And near the top is the split definition emotional projector. You know? I mean, this is riding on the Titanic. You know, and you go down with the ship. I mean, there is nothing like an emotional projector to plug in at the wrong times, eh? I mean, they're so good at plugging in at the wrong time that, I mean, we should film that and show it to people because it's really something to see, you know? The emotional projector high on their wave, plugging into the most horrendous piece of shit, right? And thinking that it's heaven, you know? And waking up in the morning and knowing that it was not heaven. Eh? Oh, they will take in people that, I mean, Mother Teresa wouldn't take these people into her life, you know? I mean, unbelievable what they would take into their lives. These are dangerous, dangerous people. They are so unpredictable. I mean, the emotions. You know, one could not play around with the emotions. No truth in the now. You know how beautiful that is. Simple, right to the point. Just about impossible for emotional people to grasp at first. You know? I mean, it's so hard not to release at your emotional moment. You know? Someone enrages you in the moment, and there's this huge emotional bubble that's rising in you. It's tough not to kill in that moment. You know? It's tough not to be shrieking and howling in that moment. And oh, the regrets the next day. Ah, poor things, yes. And the bitterness and the blame, you know. Oh, and at the other end of the scale, you don't want to wake up in the morning with an emotional projector partner who's in a shitty mood. You know, it's like waking up with Attila the Hun. I mean, your life's at risk. You know? Because it can be so chaotic. And you see they're dependent on the other. And it's a two-way street. That zzz that goes into your G center is now carrying an emotional time bomb. Zzz. You get up in the morning and there's this zzz that's going right in you. You know, this is not the strategy that says, I'll slowly bring up the subject and we'll begin to work things out. This is the moment that they're conscious and near you. You can feel it going into your G center like a hammer on a brick. And they're right there with it. See, so difficult to be an emotional being. I mean, I understand. I really do. I know what that is. I can remember one day, many years ago, touring in Germany. And we took a wrong road somewhere, and I had an emotional partner at the time. And I think we were somewhere in East Germany. I have no idea. We were really lost. And we were supposedly on our way to Hamburg, which is normally about a 4-hour drive. And it was a very tight timing because I had a class. And we were lost. And I'm very unemotional. And all of a sudden I feel this emotional energy in my body. You know, I'm sitting beside this guy and he's cranky. Eh? I mean, he is so angry. There's an emotional manifester, really angry, and the anger is raging inside of his system, and I can feel this coming into me. And I decided I'm just going to watch this movie. And at some point he realizes how to get around, and we make this bizarre U-turn, end up in some, really strange place. But anyway, we eventually end up back on the highway. And of course, at that moment ending up back on the highway, I assumed that as an emotional being that he would sort of, it would drop. This frequency would just let go, right? And I'm sitting there. It took 2 hours for this energy in his body to finally calm down. And it was a great lesson for me. I mean, it was the first time in my process, because I grew up, as any unemotional person does, being very prejudiced against the emotional system. It was the first time I had any real empathy. I got it. What I understood was, that awareness or clarity isn't going to stop a wave from completing its motion. You can't just stop a wave. Doesn't happen unless you kill them. There's a movement, and the movement has to complete. And you see, everything for the emotional being is to understand something about themselves. If you are an emotional person, you're here to be deep. If you're an emotional projector, you're here to be incredibly deep. But it means you have to have patience. Patience. There is no truth in the now. The projector with the split that sends somebody away. The emotional projector always sends people away, all the time, good, bad, or indifferent. You must always send them away. Always. One of the things to understand about being an emotional person is that nobody has a right to make a deal to have access to you in a moment. No one. No one. Because you cannot make that agreement in the moment. You cannot. You cannot know if it's so. And it is a basic law of understanding what it means to be an emotional person. You don't do things in the now. You don't rush in. You wait. And as a projector, you have to understand that when you push away, they don't go away. So don't worry. You'll get another chance to assess them in your wave. But you see, the great dilemma in the not-self-projector's life who is emotional is that they emotionalize their blame. They get cranked up. They get hysterical. And because they're designed to be one-on-one with people, they run around making one-on-one connections with others, unleashing all of their blame. And then they have to live with the consequences. They have to live with the way in which other people think of them and see them. See, emotional beings who do not wait out the wave, others will never trust them. You can't. You can't. For somebody who does such intellectual work, and that is the basis of my work, it's a privilege for me to have projectors as students. Always has been. But it's not enough, I mean, it isn't. It is this deep dedication to this process as a projector. If you do not master your world, You're going to be a victim, and it means we're all going to be victims. Truly. I mean, I know that's a sort of a grand, non-practical statement, but it really is the truth. This is a plane in which we do lack guidance, in which there are not enough truly good questions. As a teacher, over 20 years teaching this knowledge, I can count on one hand the really good questions I've been asked. You know? I mean, the question is the opening to Satori. The right question can shatter a being, can awaken them, can transform them. You see, the projector is not here to discuss the mundane. They're here to ask the right questions. And they're here to ask the right questions because they have the gift of being able to absorb and focus on another in a way that as an other themselves, they can truly grasp what's there and know what to ask that force in order to move them in a way that is correct for them. At least to open up the opportunity for them to respond this way or that to whatever it may be. It's these questions we lack. You see, answers are not important, funny enough. Not when you come to what the projector is good for. You see, there is no universal answer. I am here as proof that there is only unique truth. Each of us. And each being has the right to the correct question. It's not a homogenized question. It's not a generic, how are you today, you know? It's not about that. It is the great gift that lies within the projector to know precisely what question can be transforming in the other's life. And it is a question that carries with it no agenda. It is not a question in which the projector prefers a certain answer. This is the not-self. It is a question that arises out of awareness of the other. This is the role of projector. Projector does not guide by telling you what to do. Projector does not lead by performing themselves. The way in which a projector guides is that they simply ask the right question. That's all. That's their potential. This is what I hope for in the future. More and more projectors who truly understand their nature, who are not victims, who are not full of blame, who have the right people in their lives, and can begin to express this gift. It's a great gift. It is what outer authority is all about for a projector. You know, it's like the doctor who looks at you and seems to know exactly the question to ask you in order to get the information they need in order to be able to work with you. It's the question. And it's not a random question. It's a question that allows for a honing in and an opening up of a possibility. And because the projector has the gift of recognizing, they not only recognize the potential of the being, but they can recognize the potency of the question itself, how profound that can be. And when you're a projector and you can ask the right question, you will be a success. You know? I mean, this is what it is. It's about living out your role on this plane. And obviously there are many variations, profiles and designs and whatever the case may be, motivations and all the things that are there. And if any of those things are alien to you, then you better sign up for some courses and find out how it all works. Because if you're a projector, you know, this is the foundation of your process. You must learn as much as you can. The more you learn, the deeper you will be in the beauty of you. You. You know, I always have these moments where I can look at any of the variations and I can see, how beautiful the whole construct is. How extraordinary it would be if everything within that construct really operated the way it should or could. I mean, I look forward to those kinds of questions. I mean, you know? Because the question that is a question for me is not a question for somebody else. And if I treasure anything, I treasure uniqueness. It is what the projector is here for, to be able to recognize the uniqueness and potential in the other. And to be able to bring that out, not by leading, not by kicking or beating, you know? Just asking a question. And by the way, if they don't get it, tough. You know? Because it's not about wanting them to get it or needing them to get it. Because then you're stuck in their movie. It isn't about any of that. See, I don't care if anybody ever gets human design. I never have, eh? One person at a time, I let them know if it doesn't work. I don't care. It just wasn't meant to be, that's all. You have to understand that as a projector. You can guide. You can open up a door. But you cannot take their hand and pull them through. Just door opening. That's what these questions are all about. And open a door for human productivity. The essential relationship between the projector and the generator is that the generator has all the power, has all the pure energy. And yet the generator needs guidance, not leadership. They are not sheep, they are wolves if they are correct. But they still have to pick up the scent that leads them in the right direction. They still need to be able to respond in order to get to that correctness. And you see, projectors, better than anybody else, know what energy is. Because after all, their whole life is dependent on recognizing it in others. And so their gift in that question is a gift that is able to touch at the very core of what is the fertility of life. You know, it is their contribution to aligning this great generative force that creates the world. Most generators are homogenized, building the same things that fall down. It's time to change that. So we'll keep on giving projectors discounts, hustling them into the classroom, teaching them as much as we can. And I wait for the questions. It's my signpost. Okay, folks, that's it for today.